John Robinson's out at the Titans, and the Titans' offense is in shambles. That's on this episode. It's time to keep it real. Welcome to Titans for Life. This is your boy James again, coming back now that I'm still recovering from the issues, health and medical issues that I've had over the last few weeks. But I wanted to talk tonight about John Robinson being out at the Titans. He's no longer general manager. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Titans offense being in shambles, and some things that have happened over the last few weeks. And as always, I ask you keep it nice. Comments down below. Keep everybody, nice. If someone doesn't understand or know something, please help them out. Don't berate them. Don't talk down on them. And remember, we're all part of the Titans Upload Network, and Titans Rossi and all of us, Titans Rossi, Titan Upload, and all of us at the Titan Upload Network. We always like to keep it, keep it nice and friendly. And, if you're a Titans fan, then welcome. If you're not a Titans fan, hey, you're still welcome. And now it's time, as always, to keep it real. John Robinson being out at the Tennessee Titans is something in which we knew something had to happen. I mean, we'd been talking about it for weeks and weeks. I've been on with Rossi, talked about it. You may have seen some of my comments with Titan Upload. And we really have been talking quite a bit over the last few weeks about, something had to change the Titans. And my suggestion in private conversations within the network, we have private conversations and things that we don't air in public. My private feelings on the matter were that something had to change, and it needed to be kind of like an all-inclusive. It needed to include upper management, scouting staff, coaching staff, training staff. Heck, I would go as far as field maintenance people. Anything and everything needed to be studied and looked at from a point of view. And it looks like they kind of started at the top. And to be quite honest with you, I think John Robinson did a heck of a job last year in managing Derrick Henry being out and managing all the issues that we've had. But I think he's done a poor job with other aspects. The draft, I would probably put him at a C minus, C plus, somewhere in the C range. He's had Isaiah Wilson was a horrible failure, and then there's been some things that he's done over the last little bit that have really kind of puzzled me. I liked some of the things that he did, and I had no objection to some of the other things he did. A lot of people disagree with me, even within the Upload Network, about AJ Brown. And I think AJ Brown trade was kind of an odd situation, because when you hear both sides of the story, it was odd that, AJ Brown said, oh, they didn't offer, they never went over 16 million. And then from the Titans side, I've seen and heard stories that they went all the way up to 29 million, but that included incentives. And I've heard that that it was somewhere around 18 to 20 million, and then they were going to guarantee 80 million, 4 years, 80 million guaranteed, with incentives that could have gotten them up to 27, 29 million. So and there was a lot of animosity about about this. Now right now I'm just talking to players. Players, look, this is a business. You need to really kind of understand that they're going to lowball you. I mean, that's their job. Their job is to kind of lowball you at first, feel you out, see where you really are, and then look at the market from the market standpoint of where the market stands, and try to meet somewhere around that area. So if you get chapped over these guys doing their job, and how would you feel if someone got mad at you for going out and doing your job? And so I think that there are some issues with that, from the AJ Brown perspective. From the Titans perspective, being a little bit more forthcoming would probably have alleviated all of this. Walk in there, tell him, look, this is where we're starting. We're trying to figure out where you are, and you can kind of figure out where we are. We're going to start at around 17 million, and we're going to see where you are. And if he says, well, I can't take 17, but I'll do 24, that's whole part of the negotiation process where you go back and forth, and then you finally arrive at a number that you both can live with, or you're too far apart and you can't arrive at a number that you both can live with. So I think a lot of this has to do with John Robinson's inability to communicate in a manner in which allows everyone to be comfortable and allows everyone to get to where they want to be. And that has been something that we've seen over the last 2-3 years. John Robinson not communicating very well. And I think that's essentially was what's gotten him fired. Is the fact that he lacked some level of communication that would allow everyone to feel comfortable, so they can get to a spot where all sides were happy with where they were, or all sides just kind of agreed that, hey, this wasn't going to happen. And I think that's what happened with the AJ Brown situation. I think that was what was coming up with Jeffrey Simmons. And the contract negotiations with Jeffrey Simmons, and some of the things that were said in there, and you heard Jeffrey Simmons' comments earlier on. I think that's where John Robinson's major failure is. I think another major failure is that he is that in parts of the draft he really did not do a very good job with understanding the downsides of certain players. He took some huge risks with Jeffrey Simmons, but I think he played that right, in that he brought in Amy Adams and said, Amy, look, this is what I want to do. Have a seat with him and talk with him. And before they drafted him, Amy felt comfortable with it, and he felt comfortable with it, and the coaching staff felt comfortable with it. The other aspect that I thought that he kind of had issues with was that he would make moves without really talking to the coaching staff. And this was something that I personally have heard from several different sources within the Titans organization, is that he would often make moves and make decisions without going to the coaching staff and getting a consensus with the coaching staff on what to do and when to do it. Player moves and things like that he just kind of did. And that's not conducive if your coaches are the ones whose butts are on the lines every game. If they lose, then it's their fault. Therefore, they end up getting fired. But if they win, they look like geniuses and things like that. But that takes a very cohesive unit within the coaching staff and the management and the player scouts and all that. And I think John Robinson often would just neglect those things, and he wouldn't talk to the coaching staff about them. And he would just make these moves and then say, here's your player. And the coaches are like, but that's really not the kind of player or the type of player that we needed. And I think that he really did not value the wide receiver position like some of the coaching staff really wanted him to. I think there were some moves that that the coaching staff had said, hey, look, we've got a guy that we're going to use here or there. We don't need to go out and get someone. We're just going to bring him up. And John would be like, no, let's go get somebody else. And he would go get them and then say, here, use this guy. He would pay them. And there's a certain point where you pay someone so much that they have to play. So that in lies, I think, the John Robinson issue. Those are some of the big issues that he had. And I think the other issues that he had was that he did not get into discussions with players until pretty late in the process, where some of these players were actually getting ready to go to free agency. They had in their mind they were going to go into free agency, and they were looking at those numbers from free agency and saying, hey, look, if I go free agent, I'm going to get X millions of dollars. And then he would come in late and say, hey, this is what we're going to offer you. And it was just a mess, his negotiations and how he handled that. About what the Titans do on offense. Titans offense has been anemic at best. Unable to score, unable to do anything in the second half. This has just been an atrocious offense. Fans, whatever you want to call this offense, it's been downright awful. As Charles Barkley would say, terrible. And I think a lot of this lies, not only with the personnel that they have, but how the utilization of that personnel. I think that the Titans really need to start focusing on, particularly Todd Downing, if he is to remain with the Titans. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but if he's to remain with the Titans, he needs to start getting a little bit better situational awareness, and that situational awareness involves who he has on the field, down and distance and time and things of that nature that he's just has not been very good at. Putting players out there, and one of the first things I learned as a coach is put a player in a position to win at their position. If you put a player and you ask him to do something that he is either A, incapable of doing, or B, not comfortable doing, you're going to end up with a poor result, and that's what we've been seeing on offense. The other part of the offense is that they have not done very well preparing for the future when it comes to offensive line play. Our offensive line play has just been absolutely abysmal. For lack of a better word, it's been crap. Just plain out crap. Particularly on that left side, it's just, it's been awful. Once Taylor Lewan went down, what little hope we had for that left side of that offensive line just kind of went with him. But the thing is that Taylor Lewan was starting to get a little older, and we should have been preparing. And we should have been preparing for the last 2 years for the time in which Taylor Lewan was going to be gone. And I think that is kind of what they thought they were doing, but they didn't have a contingency plan for if their original plan didn't work out. I think it was, essentially Taylor and Dillon were the two guys, and Dillon Radunz has played when he's had his chances at left tackle, he's played relatively well. When he's had his chances at right guard, he's been serviceable. The problem with Dillon Radunz is that he is a natural left tackle, and it just seems like they're not giving him the opportunities to get settled into that position, and they're expecting him to go out there and dominate immediately with a couple of starts that he's had, and that rarely happens. That really rarely happens when it comes to the tackle position, because it takes some time to get used to the speed. It takes some time to get used to the technique that you're going to have to use. It takes time to get used to those types of things, and they're just not giving him that time on the field during game time to do that. So I think that's one of the issues. The other issue is they're putting guys out there who in my estimation, would not only be not starters on other teams, but probably be barely on the practice squad. And we've discussed that ad nauseum when it comes to the tight end positions. We have two really good tight ends, and we've got one guy who they just, for some reason, stick out there, and for the life of me, I don't get it. We've got wide receivers who, if there was ever, another pandemic or something that happened, I don't think they'd have to worry about it, because I don't think they could catch it. They can't catch anything. So I think that there are some issues there that needs to be evaluated in their evaluation steps on what they're doing with the tight end positions and with the receivers positions. That I think they need to have a much higher valuation of the tight end position and the receiver positions than they currently do, because our run game is really, really good. But if everybody can just say, okay, look, we're going to go play man to man on their receivers because their receivers are not good enough to beat us, then you have a situation where the run game can never get started because they've got 8, 9 men in the box. Another issue that I see is how close they play to the line, to the line itself. There's not a lot of spacing. They tend to run a lot of flood routes to one side or the other. And with an offensive line that's not playing very well, you end up with issues there. I think that there needs to be an evaluation top to bottom on whether or not we have the support staff and the as well as the coaching staff, as well as and that goes all the way down to the players on the field. It's time for the Titans to have one of those, what we call a coming to Jesus moment, where they're actually honest with themselves and say, hey, look, this guy, we like him as a guy, we like him as a player, he's a good blocker, but he doesn't bring a value add at the receiver position, or he doesn't bring a value add at the tight end position. We need to move in a different direction, which is what I'm hoping they're going to do with the John Robinson the firing of John Robinson. But I think Todd Downing himself is at best a D plus play caller. I think that's just the best way to put it. He's a D plus. He's passing because we're winning games, but a lot of that win, I think, it's got to be placed squarely on the shoulders of our defense and our ability to run the game, to run when we absolutely have to. We can run, but I think a lot of scheme and a lot of things need to be worked out at the coordinator position. And that's where I think the Titans are. And, like I said, we always just kind of have to keep it real here and I'm not going to blow smoke up your behind and tell you, and tell you that it's, a stake. It's really and truly a situation where I think that the Titans need to really do some soul searching, gather themselves and get themselves ready. Because I do think with Treylon Burks there, and Robert Woods getting the number 2 corner and playing that number 2 wide receiver position, I think the Titans have a shot at really doing something great. But without Burks, because we have no other dynamic receiver there, I think we've got some issues. With Burks, I think we are quite possibly a team that could go to the Super Bowl. But we have to put these players in a better position, and that better position involves having plays that are specifically designed to do certain things. I think Ryan Tannehill is doing the best he can with what he's got, which is not a whole lot when it comes to a lot of the skill positions. So with all that being said, I just like to say, I'm just keeping it real, and I express to you in all things, all times, you need to keep it real too. So let's keep it real. Titan for life out.